Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for this series, the Learning and Growing 2021. My name is Megan Craven, and I work on the training and support team at Hawke's Learning. Today, we have Dr. Linda Hunt with us from Shawnee State University. She's really going to focus in on how she's integrated Hawke's materials into her Blackboard section. And she's also going to end by showing you some ways that she's really taken what you can do in Hawke's and gone a step further by creating additional resources and materials for students that are especially beneficial for any online classes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen briefly. Give me 1 second. So quick bio. Usually our speaker introduces themselves, but I have had the privilege of working directly with Dr. Hunt over the last almost 2 years on 2 separate courses, an elementary and intermediate algebra course, as well as a course that uses our Viewing Life Mathematically title. So I've become very familiar with all of the extra work that she's done to really take Hawke's a step further and integrate it into Blackboard. With that being said, a lot of what we'll go over today was not done overnight, and it was done over a period of time, piece by piece, until it was really built out the way that Dr. Hunt felt was going to be most beneficial for her students. So just something to remember as we go through. And then I wanted to give you a little bit more detail. So we're going to start by how Linda has gone in and really organized some Hawke student resources in her Blackboard, as well as integrated our PowerPoints into Blackboard and paired that with Blackboard quizzes. And then, as I mentioned, we'll end with how Linda has created additional materials using Hawke's and how she uses those with students. Just a couple of quick notes. We really encourage you to use the Q&A if you have a question, or use the chat feature if you have connections, ideas, anything like that. We're excited to hear those. And in just a second, I'm going to launch a quick 1-question poll, but I do also encourage you to use those nonverbal responses that you see in our meeting settings under reactions. So if we're going too fast, use those to tell us to slow down. If it's something you agree with, a thumbs up, anything like that. So I'll do a quick poll that should show up on your screen in just a second. I'm going to leave it open for about another 15 seconds. We still have a few people putting in their responses. All right. So just to share with you all, we have a really great mix. We have an even split. The same number of people currently use Hawke's as the number of people that have never used Hawke's before. So for those of you that currently use, I hope this gives you some new ideas on what you can do with Hawks beyond what you're currently doing. And for those of you that aren't using Hawks, I hope this shows you all of the possibilities and how you can really push Hawks beyond just a homework and testing platform. And with all of that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and Linda is going to take over.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. And I want to thank you for joining us this morning. And let's see. So this is my Hawke's learning course within Blackboard. Now there's two different ways that you can go. You can have a single sign-on or inclusive access. We do that for our elementary algebra course as well as our intermediate algebra course. For the Viewing Life Mathematically course, I chose to not have that inclusive access. The students purchase Hawke's from the bookstore and log into Hawke's that way. There's pros and cons to both ways. If you've got the inclusive access and Blackboard goes down, well then, yeah, they can't do their Hawke's. Where if you have the Hawke's sign on separately, if something horror of horror happens in Blackboard, then they can still do their Hawke's. So what I have students do is they go to the Start Here button at the beginning of the semester.
Linda, your screen's not sharing yet.
Not sharing. Well, daggone. Okay, let me see here. Share screen. Okay. Somehow that didn't come. Let's see. How about now? Is it sharing now?
Yep, you are good to go.
Okay, let me get that out of the way. Okay, so let me start over, I guess. So, shoot. Let's see. Well, that's not where I want to be. I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, we'll go here. We'll go from here. So Start Here button. And I don't know if you all know this feature about Blackboard, but there's a really cool contact button where you can basically have an electronic business card. And so I think that's super slick. And so I've included that. I have my personal link to our math faculty page. Also, I've got the course description, just a really quick overview for that, the course goals and objectives, and then the syllabus. And I tell them to print that out because they are going to need that for the syllabus quiz. So I've been teaching for over 35 years and I still have a lot to learn, but I've also learned a lot along the way. And I think we've all, when we first start out, say, here's the syllabus, read it, and we hope they do, but maybe they don't. Some of my colleagues do a video walkthrough of the syllabus, which is a good idea, but I've taken it a step further for the online class, and I actually have a quiz that I have them take. And generally it's a 10-question quiz, and anything you want to be sure the students know, put on that quiz, and it forces them to find those answers in their syllabus. So they can't sometime during the semester say something like, oh, I didn't know our work couldn't be late. I didn't know we had a final exam. I didn't know we had to purchase Hawke's Learning or any of those other things. We'll say, yes, you did because you earned 100% on the syllabus. So I let the students take this syllabus quiz however many times it takes for them to earn 100. And then after that, I give them the key to the kingdom, so to speak, how to get into Hawke's Learning. So I have a folder on using Hawke's Learning, and I have web links that go to the Hawke's website on account creation, Dashboard and Beyond. Student Ambassadors, that's a wonderful program. I have participated in that in the past, and I know Megan recently sent something out on that. I don't think the due date has passed on that, has it, Megan?
No, the
No.
due date is upcoming. I believe it's the
May
second week in May.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
And so that was just a truly wonderful experience for my student that was the ambassador, as well as the students in my class to get extra help. And there was a stipend associated with that too. I have getting started instructions, a little quick start guide for the students. And the Hawke's TV instructional videos. And so in addition to being able to access the videos within Hawke's, here is a list of each section and the examples. And so I like there to be more than one way for students to access the resources. And how to enter answers in Hawke's learning software. And, where did I go here? Okay. And system requirements for Hawke's. So all this is so helpful when the students are getting started in Hawke's. And so they know any of this introductory information is under the Start Here button. I also, on this Start Here button, have how to get help with math. We have a math lab. We have free online tutoring. You know, of course, contact your instructor, our school calendar. Well, shucks, I am in summer 2019, but that's okay. I'll get on board with my more recent one. Online class resource guide that someone from our Student Success Center came up with for me, which was very helpful. And Netiquette, we when we develop our online classes, include this Netiquette folder. And so let me see, I think I would have more inner peace, as I call it, if I were in my current course instead of summer. I think Megan and I met this morning, and I was showing her something. So let me go here. Okay, so a little bit more about my navigation. And one of the things, in addition to the syllabus serving as the long range plan, engaging the students with that syllabus, with the syllabus quiz, is my weekly announcements. And so let me see, let me scroll down if I can to the beginning, and I hope I'm not making anybody seasick with this. But I start out with my welcome, and generally I have the time set Monday at 12:01 a.m. That's when the week starts. And I give them the overview of what they're going to do each week. And the students have commented that they really like the consistency of the due dates, where their initial discussion board post is due on Wednesday and their follow-up by Sunday. And all their due dates for quizzes and Hawke's homework is on Sunday. And so, no surprises there, no flipping those around, and they can mark their calendar. You can use the Blackboard calendar feature. And there is a button in Blackboard when you're creating an announcement. I guess another question we maybe should have asked is how familiar people were with Blackboard. And I imagine with other softwares, there is this option too, that when you create an announcement at the same time, you can send an email. And I think that is so helpful because they're not always logged into Blackboard. They may have the Blackboard app on their phone turned on, hopefully. But at least this way, you have two opportunities of giving them that announcement. And let's see, there's one more thing I wanted to show you with the syllabus. And I apologize, this makes us a little bit dizzy maybe. So if I will go here and go to my syllabus, I imagine you all do this too. Let me close that. But I give them a long range plan. Is it not showing up? Oh, shucks. Oh, there it is. Okay. I give them a long range plan on the syllabus. So if anyone wants to work ahead, at our school, we have 14-week classes and 7-week classes. So if someone knows ahead of time that they have a 7-week class coming up at the second half of the semester, they may want to double up on these assignments. I have the whole course in Blackboard as well as in Hawke's posted for the whole semester. And so if they want to double up to get done in half the time, they can do that. So this is the week by week, what they're going to do. And, just so I'm not wasting the reader's energy, same as above. So I did want to show you that for keeping them on track. So what I want to do next, maybe before I go on, Megan, in the chat, do we have any burning questions that we should?
Nope, you are good to keep
We're
going.
good. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let me go to weekly modules. And I know when I first started using Blackboard, I did not use modules. It is a best practice. And I think I did Quality Matters training twice. I did Learning House training a couple times and our Blackboard expert at school. Before I really thought, okay, I really need to do this. And so that's how I do all my courses now. So here's chapter 1. And all my modules have the same format. So I start out with an introduction and the objectives. And of course, I have gotten this from Hawke's, nothing original on my part there. And then in case they do want to work ahead, each module has a checklist. And our Blackboard expert at school, she's really big on checklists. So she got me organized with this idea. And they're always the same. Discussion board. They want to, make their posts there. They want to take notes on the PowerPoint presentation that I have edited from Hawke's, use their notes to take a quiz. In viewing life mathematically, and I'll show you an example here in just a minute, the quizzes that I have are based on concepts and vocabulary. In the 0101, 0102 or elementary algebra, intermediate algebra courses, I use the practice problems and I took off the solutions to those and I made their quizzes based on those problems. So a couple different ways you could go with that. And then in Hawke's, and for those of you that aren't super familiar with Hawke's, the process in Hawke's, and we'll get to this in a few minutes, is the students learn where they watch a video. There's almost always, there might be one section that doesn't have this, but almost always an overview for a video for each section. And then there are slides that are in Learn, and the slides have embedded videos. Then they go to practice and kind of have that baseball kind of theme with this, because when they go to certify, they have a certain number of strikes that they're allowed in order to get their mastery. And what's nice is to get that medal for certify, so long as they meet the mastery level, which may be 80% or something like that, the teacher decides, then they get 100%. And so that's kind of exciting. All right, so if I go back to, let's see, module.
And Linda, as you're navigating around,
Yeah.
a question came in, is Shawnee State going to be moving to Blackboard Ultra?
That is a good question. I have not heard that. So I hope no one from Shawnee's here, but I sort of hope not, because I've heard it's a major, major change. Yes, so that's a good question. And whoever, I guess, is looking at this realizes this is not Blackboard Ultra.
Yep.
Okay. One of the study skills that is featured in my discussion board, and I'm just a big proponent of study skills. Generally, math requires a different study skill set than other subjects. Yet at the same time, these study skills can be used in other courses. My students told me their favorite study skill that I talk about is on time management. And I'm watching our time here. Megan, do you think we have time for my funny video?
You can share, I would do like half of it.
Okay. So this is a funny little video that my husband helped me make on time management. So I'll just show you a few seconds, and you might want to consider doing something like this.
This week's study skill focuses on time management, which is the key to your success. To get started, click on the time schedule button. Okay, that is probably enough of that silly little video. And Megan and I were laughing yesterday because the Southern accent comes through even in Snapchat. And then another helpful thing that I have for the students is this schedule for them to fill out. I don't require that they give this to me. It is for their own use. And then additionally, for this particular study skill, they all don't have this much, but it's so important that I include a lot on time management. So this is tips for online students, and it's just a few-minute read for them. And then, after all this, then they have a time management prompt. Okay, so now let's look at one of these folders. So let's look at 1.2 on problem solving. Each folder looks the same. It starts off with a PowerPoint presentation, and they can use that to take their quiz. And let me click on this. Let's see. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. And let's see, play. And so what I was able to do is within Hawke's download the PowerPoints and then customize them for what I wanted to include. So if there was an example that I thought, well, I'm not going to cover that, I could delete that. If I wanted to add something, I could do that. Of course, include the objectives and let's see here. Then we've got, examples. So let's see. I can get out of that. And then after that,
there's a quiz for them to take. And the reason I have a quiz based on the PowerPoint is students don't do optional. So if you don't, you can post the most wonderful PowerPoint in the world, but if you don't somehow assess them on it, they are not going to watch it. They view that as optional and they're not going to do it. So let's take a look at this quiz so that you can see what I've done. So this is just really quick. It's the multiple answers that I have for this particular quiz, and they're all like that. They're all just a really quick quiz. Sometimes it's true, false, sometimes multiple choice, sometimes matching, but they're always objective. They're not free response, because I learned early in my Blackboard experience that you have to have every possible answer if you're doing the free response. And I just did not want to do that. Then the last, or next to the last option, but before I do that, I want to go to the worked questions, is the link to Hawke's Learning. So even though they are buying Hawke's separately, they still have this easy option to click on this and it takes them to the login screen. So I tell them they're ready to do the homework, and I let them know the video is 5 minutes long, because sometimes I think they see video and perhaps based on other courses they've taken, they think, oh gosh, I don't want to watch an hour video. But when they see 5 minutes, they're like, oh, 5-minute video, I can watch that. That's not going to take me long. And then, let them know about practice, and then certify, I'm up front. There's 5 problems. Again, 5 problems, that's not bad. And they have to get 4 out of 5. And so I think to relieve some anxiety, it's good to include those comments.
And one thing I will note there, just for anyone that doesn't currently use Hawke, so in practice, the virtual tutor that Linda's referring to is not like a pop-up. Like, I'm not going to pop up on your student's screen and walk them through it, but we have a tutor feature that gives them some hints, step-by-step guidance, as well as worked out solution options. So that's what Linda's referring to there with that tutor, is that there are tutor features embedded in the practice mode to help students.
All right. This particular class, I think with the students being well-versed in elementary algebra, that's a prerequisite for this course. I've really felt that what Hawke's offers to them in terms of the 5-minute overview video and the embedded videos has been enough. For the most part, if students do their part, they've been getting A's and B's in this class. Now, of course, if they don't do their part, they're not going to get the A's and B's. For our elementary and intermediate algebra students, they tend to be a little bit weaker in their skills. And so the way that we've handled that, and we'll address this just a little bit more a little bit later, is that we've created worksheets. And with the worksheets, I have PenCasts, and then I also have transcripts, because I feel like they need a little more, I guess I'd say, hand-holding, where they want it to be just like Hawke's, even, step 1, step 2, and that's worked really well. But for this course, for the most part, it's working as it is. And I told Megan I will, as I always strive to improve, I will add to this course the more I teach it. I just developed this summer of 2019, so I really have not had it all that long compared to the other courses. But here's an example of a problem the students were having some trouble with, and I'm sure you've all seen this type of problem, farmer kind of problem. And so I worked that out for the students. And so you can always do that, of course, in, let me get back here. In your Blackboard site, and you could add it in Hawke's as well. So Megan, do you think we're ready to jump into Hawke's now?
Yeah, and there is one question. So the quizzes that are created in Blackboard, are those graded automatically for you?
They are, which is wonderful. Yes, because they are objective, it is really easy for Blackboard to grade them. And so that frees me up more for specific questions that students could ask me based on their homework. So yes. And also their discussion boards, I need to grade those by hand and interact with the students on the discussion board as well.
And I think we're ready. You can jump to the student side and really get into the PenCasts and the to-do list. And while you log in, one note and one thing that I've shared with other instructors that I work with who are having trouble with students shifting to online is, I think the resources that Linda has pulled and put into Blackboard give students the option to print something out and, you know, pick up that pen to paper, interact with it. Those PowerPoints Linda and I have talked, you know, you can create guided notes for students. Students can even print them and take their own notes on the PowerPoint. So I think that that's really important to recognize as well. A struggle of online classes is everything is on a screen, and we all know Zoom fatigue, all of it is very real, and it's real for students. So creating those additional resources, putting them in Blackboard where students can print them out, pencil to paper, especially in math, is really valuable.
Yes, and I've got to make a plug for both Megan and Hawke's. I really think Hawke's has the best text support. I mean, it's just truly wonderful. If you are new to Hawke's, or maybe you're debating about getting started with Hawke's, you will have help. They will support you and get you started. And then you'll be like me, you'll be hooked. Okay.
Last question about the Blackboard quizzes, because this is actually a great question. When the quizzes are graded, do you get an accompanying analysis of the student quizzes?
That is a good question. I think that I do, but I don't really fool with that. For the most part, they do well. In this course, there's lots of hundreds. I mean, with the mastery, you know, 100. In the quizzes, if they're using their PowerPoint, and I mean, it's based on the vocabulary and the concepts, they get it. And that's what I want. I think as instructors, we want them to be familiar with the vocabulary going in, because we all know if they don't read the book, then they jump into the homework and they'll say, well, this doesn't make any sense. So that gets us around that. So I think we do have that option, but I don't use it because for the most part, they do very well.
Awesome. So now we're going to kind of shift gears from how Linda's integrated some Hawke's materials as well as created additional things in Blackboard into how we've pulled those assignments from Blackboard to create a comprehensive to-do list in Hawke. So kind of going along with Linda's long-range plan and really outlining that for students in that document, making sure that that's reflected here in Hawke's as well.
And I really like that Megan had this idea to designate what's in Blackboard, to remind them, you've got to go to Blackboard to do this. And are we ready to really jump into the Hawke's?
Yeah, so do you want to, since there are some new people, we will just do a quick 5 minutes of learn, practice, and certify. So for those of you that are current users, it's always a nice reminder. And for those that are not users, it's great to see.
Yes, and what's super cool is this horizontal format. And I remember when I was looking into Hawke's for the first time, the Hawke's development team studied the vertical strategy versus horizontal, and the horizontal was the better strategy. And students can get to learn through the start, or through the open book. Either of those or any of those options will take them there. And they've got the video overview that I
Hello,
mentioned.
in this video, you will learn about thinking mathematically.
So there was a 5-minute video for them to watch that I had mentioned. And then the objectives, and I imagine I probably took those and put those in my Blackboard course. As I said, they were not original to me. And what I like about these pages is the students don't need to scroll down. So that's another really wonderful thing from the development team, is they know that as users, people don't like to scroll down, or might not think to scroll down and miss out on the material, and have the nice boxes and bold. So here's an example. And we know there are different types of learners, and some are audio. And so for those learners, they can click on this.
Our example here is an illustration of inductive reasoning. Consider the following argument. In New York City.
And so there is an example of that. And I'm going to exit learn at this point. Next, they can go to practice. In Megan, did you want to maybe give the strengths of practice?
Yeah, so I can just jump in here quick, and I kind of expanded on that a little bit already, but Linda mentioned the tutor feature, which you can see in the bottom left. It's a great way, especially for online courses. You can't always be there to help students, and we know that at some point they're going to need some assistance. So providing them that scaffolded guidance while allowing them to work through it if they can. But also, if they really can't work through it, giving them access to the worked out solution so that they can see what it is they need to do. And I also really like that the learn screens are linked. So for those students that really benefit from those videos, they have access to those as well. Yep, and then if you click back to practice, so students can also try similar. Again, the multiple iterations are really helpful for students so that they can get enough practice on the specific question types where they don't feel strong. And then if they submit an incorrect answer, they get that same assistance that they get in tutor, but they'll also have their error explained to them. So those common math errors that we know students typically make for a skill, our teams have identified that and will give them targeted guidance when that does happen.
Okay.
And then they can save their progress.
And then your mastery set at 78%.
Yep, so right around 80. And then in certify, great thing about certify, the question sets are going to be the same as practice. No surprises for students. So again, we want students to be motivated, but we also want them to be accountable. So you'll notice that those learning aids are not displaying across the bottom anymore. So they really are working on more of an independent level. And as you notice in that top right-hand corner inside the heart, that's how many strikes Linda has left on this one. You can see she's gotten one correct. So it really helps students see where they're at, the progress that they're making, visualize it, and then, yes, does give students answer entry information as well as keyboard shortcuts.
Let me click on that too. There we go.
Yep. So again, this is the credit component of the lesson. So everything that Linda has done with those additional resources, those PowerPoints, those extra worksheets, really is working to prepare students so that they can confidently complete certify successfully.
Okay. Megan, do you want to hop over to the algebra course to look at the
Yes, yeah. So one thing when I started working with Linda that I was really impressed with was the PenCasts that she's created. So I come from an elementary teaching background, and the thought of lecturing for an hour is not my normal. So when Linda told me, oh yeah, I don't really lecture, especially in online classes, I do these PenCasts with examples and transcripts. I loved the approach that it takes with students, that it acts as a resource whenever they need it, and really gives them those additional touch points with the content that we know students need to really be successful.
So this is under the materials button, and what we have done is we have taken the Hawke's homework assignment, and there's a feature where you can export that assignment as a Word document, and you can have the answers be right underneath the problem or at the end. And what I like to do is format it to my liking in Word. Okay, let's see. Here we go. And so notice these, if you're familiar with this particular section in Hawke's, the wording, the directions are the same, because for students, a lot of times when you're in class demonstrating, they understand, but then, solve versus simplify, they sound so similar, kind of like mean, median, mode, and mid-range. I mean, only mathematicians would name measures of central tendency and have them all start with M. But anyway, so here is the worksheet that I tell them to print out before they watch the PenCast. So then here's the PenCast. Now the PenCasts I make with something called Livescribe. And let me just make sure I know where this is being saved. Okay, there we go. And it's relatively inexpensive to get started with this. I've always wanted to buy it myself so that I own all my work. But if your school has some CARES money from COVID and you're looking for something really slick to help yourself, I strongly recommend checking out livescribe.com. It's a special pen that you use on special paper. And the wonderful thing is that these videos are saved as PDFs, so they don't take up much room. And in our part of the world, I'm from Appalachia, as if my accent does not give that away, we have students who have limited bandwidth. And so this helps them, as opposed to a video where they'll hear some video and then there's a pause, here video. They never have complained about this. So I'm going to go here, choose my PenCast. And so some of my students will print out my handwriting, and this is my neatest handwriting that I can do.
And I'm a big person on time. I always want to know what's my time commitment on this. And 11 minutes, I don't think they're going to, I'll hold their attention any longer than that. And then you just play it.
11.3 is an introduction to polynomials.
Okay. And let's say, they say, well, I really had trouble with 6.
Similar situation for number 6. I've got 6x
You can
to the 3rd.
You can click anywhere on this and it'll pick up with where I'm talking. And let's say, I don't know if you've ever been in a class and you think, what did she just say? Well, with this, if you think, what did she just say? You just, back up. She's got not here. Did she say not? Is that not a polynomial?
Number 5, we have 7.
And there is a little feature, I think I've probably got covered up here, where you can speed up the sound, because I know I talk a little bit slowly. But anyway, so that's just a really quick example of a PenCast, wonderful, wonderful feature. And then for accessibility issues, and I always feel like what's good for a student who has accessibility issues is really good for everybody. And so after making the PenCast, I made a transcript. And I'm going to let you all in on a little secret for me making PenCasts, transcripts. When I first started out, I tried to transcribe it word for word for what I said. And then it occurred to me, and if you all know differently, please correct me. Really, we don't need to have it be word for word what I'm saying. What we need is a form for students to use if they are not able to hear. And you want a screen reader to be able to read these, so you want to make sure that you have your formatting done correctly. But that was helpful when I realized I really don't even have to listen to the transcript. I just need to do a wonderful job capturing the details on what it was I covered. Megan, I've been kind of so wound up this morning. Have we covered everything? Because I know we need to allow a little time for questions.
Yeah, I think that covers everything that you've done, on the Blackboard side and the Hawke side to really enhance the traditional Hawke's platform, and used, what's available, but then put your own kind of spin on it to make it best for your students. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A or the chat. It can be about the Blackboard side, anything Hawke specific, or anything that Linda has created.
And I told Megan I'm willing to share any of these, transcripts, examples in PenCast, but they are, of course, customized to my course and my questions I chose. But if you are interested in those, that's fine, because I have taken a lot of time, and I know that whole idea of a pre-built can be very appealing. And why reinvent the wheel when Hawkes and I have worked as a team? Megan and her predecessors and I have, added pieces as we've gone along, and I'm very willing to share.
Yeah. And one participant said, if you do one of these for Canvas ever, to please send him the link. And John, I will keep my eyes out for someone that does a similar setup in Canvas and see if they would be interested in sharing that. But you can take these ideas and definitely apply them to any other LMS that you may use.
Yeah, especially the examples, PenCasts and transcripts, those could be used in Canvas.
Yeah. And one question, Linda, is, Hawkes has the homework and the web test tool that you were referencing earlier that people typically use for tests and quizzes or worksheets. And those are really the two main things that people think of. So how do you feel like all of these things that you've created really complement what's available in the Hawkes platform?
Well, Megan, this reminds me of one thing that we forgot to mention. when, pre-COVID, I had a sort of trust but verify sort of mentality where the midterm and the final, I would have students come to campus, take a paper and pencil version. They had to show their ID, it was proctored, and then I knew who was doing the work. When COVID came along, that really did not seem like that was a good idea anymore. So my way around that was using the testing feature from Hawke's, where I pulled questions from each homework assignment, randomly chose one question from each of those assignments and put a timer on it. Now, could they still cheat? If there's a will, there's a way. They're going to cheat, but that way everybody had different problems, different order, and the time also minimized the cheating. And I felt like my students were not cheating because I'd look at their Hawke's homework, I'd look at how they did on the midterm or the final, and it seemed in line. And at some point, I just feel like, that's their choice, and they're going to have to answer to a higher authority someday, be it their boss at work when they don't know math or something beyond that. So I just had to kind of let that go. Of course, you could use ProctorU, which I chose not to do. But one thing I do like that Hawke's has is the Respondus lockdown browser. And I think that was a third component that discouraged cheating. So they had the randomly chosen questions from each section, they had the timer, and the Respondus lockdown browser. And I had one student, she was kind of funny. She said something like, well, can the Respondus lockdown browser hear my kids in the background? And I said, oh no, they can't hear that. So just the fact that they know there's this lockdown browser, sort of intimidates them a little bit. The one thing you do have to watch out for, though, is if the student's only option is a Chromebook. The lockdown browser does not work with the Chromebook, but it's a relatively easy fix. You just go into student settings, and what I have chosen to do, if they can't come to campus to be proctored, because I hate violating the pajama rule, as we call it, if you have to leave your house to do the online course, then you can remove that requirement of the lockdown browser for specific students. And I think this semester, I've maybe had 2 or 3 students out of 30 some, so it's not a high number.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, especially with the online, push that is going to continue even post-COVID. So that's a good note to include about that. And there is, yes, so someone did mention, and this is more Hawke's related. So what Linda's talking about with lockdown browser can be run just through Hawke's in the settings on the web test. But we can also work with an LMS that has a partnership with an external test proctoring, such as Respondus and Monitor and things like that. So yes, if you have Blackboard, for example, and your school has a partnership with Respondus where you can run Respondus through Blackboard, we have figured out a way so that you can use that feature in Blackboard and still give your test in Hawke's. So that's something, as Linda mentioned, we can help with and get it set up so that it runs exactly how you would need. But if you don't want the monitor piece or you don't have that partnership, you can use that lockdown browser feature directly in Hawke's.
Yeah, at no extra cost.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. If you do think of any questions after, or you would like any of the items that Linda showed you today, you can reach out to our marketing team and they will help you get in touch, or they can share what they have with you. The recording of this webinar will be available, so you will hear from our marketing team once it is available. Thank you all so much for joining us for this session of our Learning and Growing series. And thank you, Dr. Hunt, for sharing all of the resources that you've created and how you've really integrated Hawkes and Blackboard really seamlessly and in such an organized manner for your students.
Well, it was my pleasure presenting with you today, Megan.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, everyone. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much.